We made it to the end of the day, but we have a great show and a great football game on tap for Sunday Night Football. You're tuned into a RotoGrinders NFL Showdown episode, and I am again here with Devin and Keith. Keith, what's going on, man? How was that Charlotte-Atlanta NBA game playing out? I've been keeping an eye on football so much, I didn't really get to check the box score yet.
Yeah, I was watching football too. I do have it on another tab here. I can check real quick. Looks like it's tied. And Collins is outperforming Capella, so you win that round, my friend.
Well, hey, it's early, but like at least it's competitive, so kind of. I mean, I'm sure there's tournament players fading that game, but a lot of the chalk is probably going to be well alive then, I would imagine. Anyway, we'll switch gears here and get back to NFL here, as this Baltimore game is pretty crazy out of the corner of my eye. And but hey, we got Kansas City and Denver tonight, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. It's been a long day. Devin's been sitting here listening to us on a bunch of shows. He does a great job producing for us. A couple quick plugs, we'll just get them out of the way, and of course drop your questions in the chat and we'll get to them towards the end of the show. BetMGM, use the bonus code GRINDERSBET, bet $10 to get $200 instantly on BetMGM if your team scores a touchdown. RotoGrinders Premium, we're kind of a broken record promoting this stuff. A lot of great premium content, whether it's video, audio, content. Everybody loves these Slate IQ articles for Showdown, and they are phenomenal. We have great data, and Alan did a hell of a job putting this one together tonight. Of course, like and subscribe to RotoGrinders and the Daily Fantasy Football podcast feed, where we have a ton of shows every week. And Keith joined me on Food for Thought this week, which was an awesome show, and it was kind of just our hit the reset button every Tuesday and have some fun and maybe look ahead to a couple of plays. It's just so hard to put stuff on paper, concrete on Tuesday. I mean, Keith, look at all the injuries and all the news we were kind of waiting around, 11 o'clock this morning for when the inactives came out. Crazy.
Yeah, definitely a crazy week for sure. I mean, all kinds of running back value. We kind of saw that shaking out early in the week. That's exactly how it played out. Sony Michel smashed at his low price tag despite Henderson being active. So if you weeded through that and played Michel despite the chalk, that probably worked out for you. But yeah, all kinds of kind of a weird slate just overall. A lot of chalk hit, needed some Justin Jefferson in there, another smash game from him. So yeah, not a great week for me. Almost broke even, but going to be slightly down. But we get back at it here on Sunday Night Showdown.
As a tournament player, that's kind of a win, right? It's like going to the casino. If you're slightly down, you walk out of there and you can still catch an Uber home. Like, it's all good, find ways to make that bankroll work. And then, you have a couple big hits once in a while. And that's, the ROI and the pay, the rake is so high and the pay scales are so heavily on top that we'll take that and we'll move on. But let's move on to Sunday Night Football. I mean, you don't have to wait that long, and we got
That's
a great
right.
game. So Kansas City 27.5 team total, folks, and Denver, the visitors have a 19 projected total. And I guess the biggest news for a daily fantasy player is the Melvin Gordon not playing news, which we started getting hints of that towards the end of the work week, and now he is for sure not playing. And here's the rookie Javonte Williams that so many people were high on, and he's going to get an opportunity tonight. They were in very much of a timeshare this whole year, Williams and Gordon. What's your overall macro view of this game, Keith?
Yeah, with the Williams stuff, I mean, he's outperformed Gordon. I think most people would agree for the majority of the season. And now we get him in a great spot against a weak Kansas City defense. So very interested to see how he performs in the lead role here. Definitely going to be key to this showdown slate. From an overall perspective, got a pretty wide spread here. 46.5 total. Chiefs are favored by 8.5 last I looked. So pretty widespread. I kind of feel like Denver can keep this one close though. Just Bridgewater has a ton of weapons here. I think it's a benefit that Gordon's sitting, honestly. Williams is the more talented back. And Kansas City's defense is not very good. We've seen the Chiefs not cover the spread very often, despite their run of elite football over the last couple of years here. So I like Denver to keep this a little bit closer than the spread. I think plenty of points will be scored. And we'll see how it goes from there. But I think we can fit some interesting Denver pieces in here, despite the big spread.
Yeah, I agree. And sorry that my text size is so big when I'm bringing up Javonte Williams game log here. But yeah, I mean, pretty much even timeshare, really, double-digit carries in most games. But, every now and then he was phased out compared to Gordon, or the running backs were just game scripted out and Denver was trailing kind of thing. So I'm excited to see, what Javonte Williams can do tonight. Another great tool we have at RG Premium is the Gridiron IQ. It's just very interesting to see some data and how things match up. So I think we can find some information there as well as other places and kind of put a couple of our favorite pieces on paper here. So you know what? I think this game, like, I didn't take a side. I didn't write anything up for SAO, but gun to head, I think I'd take Denver. What is it? 8.5, I think. Is that what it is, Keith?
Yep. Yep. 8.5.
I mean, it's close. It's close, but I like this game to be a little bit closer, and that's kind of my lean. If you looked at Allen's article, there was a bit of leverage on Patrick Mahomes at captain and quarterback. Strange game here. Let's start with the Kansas City side, because we typically talk about the same skill players. So talk to me about the Kansas City side of things here, and then we'll get into some lineup constructions a little bit later, and of course take your questions in the chat.
Yeah, Mahomes is definitely interesting. I think this year, more than years past, we've seen a shift away from quarterback and the captain. Like in the past couple of years, I've played almost exclusively wide receivers at captain, unless like it was a Dalvin Cook or something, and the Vikings were favored by, like today, favored by 8.5. Edwards-Helaire is not a lead back like Dalvin Cook, so I don't have any interest in Edwards-Helaire and the captain, maybe as a couple of hedge teams, but I do like the Patrick Mahomes thing. Just the way the field has been playing this year, I think that the ownership number on him will be reasonable in the captain. Plenty of people are going to jam Tyreek and Kelsey up there. But I think it definitely works out if Mahomes spreads the ball around, throws a couple touchdowns to different guys. That's obviously the route to get there. It's the most optimal way to play, I feel like, and feels like we can get a little bit of leverage with people chasing big games from Hill and Kelsey.
Agreed. Edwards-Helaire is expected to play, battling an illness. Had a dozen carries against Dallas, was it? Did you know that your guy, Darrell Williams, is he your guy? I know you're a big D-Will guy. You called
I called a touchdown on like this, I don't know, it was week 2 or 3 of the season. I think we were doing one of these shows, and Edwards-Helaire was clearly ahead of him at that point, and he ended up scoring on a showdown slate. But I don't know that he's my guy.
You know what? He outsnapped Edwards-Helaire against Dallas. Did you see that?
I did not notice that.
I hope I'm looking at the right thing. I'm pretty sure I am. Let me just bring it up again, but put that on pause there.
You're correct. I'm seeing that as well. 56% of snaps for Darrell Williams, 44% for Edwards-Helaire. So, yep, I'm seeing the same thing.
So, this game, Denver's pretty good against the run. This game could be ugly. I just wanted to talk about Williams because at 2K, like, he didn't have anything to show for in that Dallas game, right? I mean, he had 5 carries, 1 catch. Today's a new day. I mean, this could be a split timeshare kind of thing. What are your thoughts here, especially with Edwards-Helaire second game back and he's under the weather? I'm interested in Darrell Williams. I know this is your guy. No, I'm just kidding. But you have any interest in him at value tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the price tag, and if he's going to play even 40% of the snaps on a single game showdown, I think he's absolutely in play. We've seen him come in at the goal line and take touchdowns. We've seen him get work in the pass game over CEH as well. So at CEH's price tag, the uncertainty around the illness, just coming back from an injury, looks like they were slow to work him back in last week. Maybe that's the same case this week. And I think we're looking at least at a 60-40 split. So Williams is going to be involved at that price. Definitely interested in it.
Yeah. Denver's been a little more vulnerable against the run than I originally thought. However, I just can't wrap my head around having a ton of Edwards-Helaire exposure. Like if I'm playing 1 to 3 lineups, I don't think I'm playing him tonight. What are your thoughts on Edwards-Helaire? Just because outside of Kelsey, Tyreek, he's the next skilled player on Kansas City with the highest upside.
Yeah, I'm going to fade him completely. I think he needs to score twice basically to get there at that price, and I don't foresee that happening. With all the weapons that they have, that they script running plays for Tyreek at the goal line. They run the little shovel pass to Kelsey all the time. You'll see Hardman on an end around. Like they do all kinds of different things on the goal line. You'll see Williams come in and vulture one. Like I just don't think the touchdown upside is there for Edwards-Helaire. Talked about the uncertainty around illness and injury as well. I think he's a perfectly fine fade in the spot.
Kansas City, when they run effectively, they're a zone run team. Looking at a Gridiron IQ tool, they rank 10th in zone block run percentage plays, and they rank 5th in the success rate of those zone run plays. Teams aren't running a heck of a lot of zone run against Denver, but they've been effective when they have been. Zone run plays defensively for Denver, they've been yielding the 5th highest success rate. So as I said, I'm fading Helaire, Edwards-Helaire. I think that gives more merit to maybe be overweight on Williams, especially after seeing that, especially if it's going to be kind of more of a timeshare. I mean, at 2K, if he plays a third of the snaps, I'm still going overweight on Williams. Like, is there a magic number where you're out on him at this price, Keith?
I just think at 2K, it's so easy for him to, even if he doesn't score, he can catch a couple of passes. And basically you're looking for him to outscore a kicker or a defense, right? As a value play. I think he's going to do that more often than not. So even if he gets heavy ownership, I still have interest.
Okay, fair enough. And of course, we'll talk about Kelsey and Tyreek. And you and I typically side with Tyreek because on showdown slates, there's no positional structure, and Tyreek has the higher upside, has higher ceiling, whatever you want to call it, than Kelsey. Let me tell you one more thing here. Denver yields the most percentage of targets 20 plus yards down the field. So, like, they're a pretty good defensive unit. They don't have Von Miller anymore. They're missing a couple guys, but Mahomes might get what he wants once or twice in this game. I've said it on podcasts and videos that I thought part of Mahomes' Achilles heel this year was holding on to the ball and waiting for that home run to develop and not taking what the defense has been giving him. But boy, seeing that, giving up the most 20 plus yard targets as Denver collectively, we could see a home run tonight, whether it's Tyreek, God forbid it's Mecole Hardman finally, or I have interest in Byron Pringle at his price, even though the volume, outside of Tyreek isn't crazy. I know we're going to get some Josh Gordon questions here. Anyway, Tyreek is my preferential play. I'm totally fine with using him at captain tonight. You think this Denver D is sturdy and nothing over the top, but looks like they give up some bomb opportunities here. So I love Tyreek at captain tonight. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm with you. Tyreek over Kelsey, especially on Showdown. I think he broke it down really well. You're looking for that big play. Even if he doesn't get behind the defense, he's so electric in space. They throw him the little screen pass or whatever, he can break that too. So just all kinds of ways for Tyreek to get there. The volume is, seeing a career high volume this year, which just gives him a floor too. I think I want as much Tyreek as I can possibly jam in there today.
And I do expect this game to be pretty close. And that one bomb could just wrap it up at captain, if everything else kind of stays in check here. So I do like Tyreek, hell of a lot of volume this year, like you said. So I guess it's pretty much consensus. We're kind of out on Edwards-Helaire. We both like Tyreek. I think there are lineups where you can jam in on Tyreek and Kelsey, but you have to feel strongly about a couple of guys that are really cheap. Okay. Now that we got Kansas City out of the way, how about Denver, who has all these skill players, and I wish Aaron Rodgers went there to throw them the ball, but that didn't happen. That was my early May, June guess. I didn't think he'd come back to Green Bay. I thought he was going to Denver. Didn't happen. These skill players are really good. Bridgewater hasn't been terrible, but he's just been so damn inconsistent. Get Cortland Sutton the ball, get Jerry Jeudy the ball, Noah Fant, Tim Patrick. That's a playoff caliber supporting cast there. That being said, Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback, and there's just not a ton of volume. We'll start with the run game. Javonte Williams, what can you tell me about what do you think his role is going to be tonight?
I think he sees the majority of the snaps, and not just a majority. I think 80% is probably, if I had to just put a number on it. I think Mike Boone will work in. He's only $200. I think he's in play as well. But I think Javonte sees a vast majority of the work here. We've seen him work in the passing game, even when Gordon was there as well. So I think he plays third downs. I think he's a phenomenal play at 7-6 on DraftKings. No, I don't see any red flags or any reason to fade him. Mentioned the matchup is great against KC. He's going to be one of the higher owned players on the slate, but I think there's multiple routes for him to pay it off.
Good point. And I'm glad you brought up Mike Boone, because I was going to bring him up and I wasn't going to feel great about it. But I wanted to bring him up. Vic Fangio just doesn't have it as a coach. I have a couple Broncos fans close to home too, and they feel the same way. That being said, okay, what if Boone plays 15-20%? God, what if he vultures a touchdown? And he's going to carry almost 20% ownership, so he's not completely off the radar. But what if it's just their terrible philosophy to keep this a little bit of a timeshare? It's definitely in the cards. We don't know. We're speculating. I want Javonte Williams to get 90% of the touches, but maybe he gets 65% of the touches. But against his Chiefs defense, that might be good enough. And there is a world where you can play both of them. I don't know. Mike Boone me here. Talk to me. What's going on?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. Playing two running backs from the same team is generally negatively correlated. But on a showdown slate, that doesn't matter as much because you're just looking for the raw points. If they each score a touchdown, that's going to work out fine, especially with Mike Boone priced down here at just $200. You're talking about a total salary for the two of them of $7,800, where if you look at CH and Darrell Williams, you're up over 10K on that combination. So I don't mind playing the two Denver backs together at all. When you're playing Mike Boone, if he outscores Darrell Williams, you're in good shape there. I don't think he'll have quite as good of a role as Williams does, but that doesn't mean that he can't outscore him. We've seen him. When he was backing up in Minnesota, he got a few opportunities and looked okay. definitely looks like a serviceable back to me. So at $200, I definitely have interest.
Yeah, he's for sure serviceable, and there's unknown there, and he's garnering this ownership because people want to jam it in, and we get it because we typically know where the volume is going to go in Kansas City, and maybe that will be the outcome. Maybe it is a jam it in night if Boone scores or has 40 yards or and 2 catches, then that jam it in will work out, and maybe Boone's the guy, or maybe it's Darrell Williams. Also, I don't hate Pringle down there, especially after he has a second highest ADOT on the team. So I don't mind, that whole, if we're correlating that number with the 20+ yard targets that Denver's given up, that could be interesting as well. You think ADOT, you don't think of Byron Pringle, you think of Hardman, but Hardman's like the fantasy community wants Hardman to be this player he just hasn't become.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are finally realizing that too. If you look at the snap share and their routes run over the last 2 weeks, like Pringle has clearly flipped Hardman. He is running ahead of Hardman and Demarcus Robinson now. So Pringle is the clear number 2 in this offense the last 2 weeks. I think that continues into a third week here. So Pringle being priced under Hardman, very interesting. I think he's a better play.
Eventually, Josh Gordon's going to score. He's seen 40% of the snaps in 3 of the last 4 games. Where does Josh Gordon fall into all this mess, Keith, in your eyes?
I've heard rumors and things like that of him he's out there to run block the majority of the time. Like, he doesn't look like the same explosive player that he was a couple of years ago when he was putting up huge fantasy scores and things like that. He just doesn't look as athletic. He's just a big blocker at this point. So I don't have any interest in Gordon.
That's fair. Sorry, I know we're kicking it back towards the Chiefs side of things, but he's over here at 200 as well, carrying next to no ownership, and rightfully so at this point. Anyway, back to Denver, because this is where it gets pretty fascinating, outside of Javonte Williams and Mike Boone, whatever you want to do there. Here, I can toggle this to get to Denver. Like we talked about, we have a host of skilled players at the skill position. I mean, these guys are good. They've unfortunately dealt with Drew Lock, and Teddy Bridgewater's been serviceable, right? But that's it. Not a ton of volume to anyone specifically. It's almost anyone's guess who's going to get the 5 target game. Woo, the 5 target game. But that's just what it is. So it's tough to pay up for Sutton and Judy, or even Patch, or any of them. It doesn't feel great playing them. And I think the public feels the same way, as none of them are cracking 30% ownership. And what should be a trailing game script, although Javonte Williams is in a great spot, he's still 7,200, right? So this is where it gets really interesting for GPPs. You're going to have to make some tough decisions when you're playing single entry or 3 max or stuff. This is like a 150 max kind of night where you can pick your spots and go overweight on the right Denver skill position guys and correlate your bills, how you need them to be correlated. But for the sake of conversation, gun to head here, buddy. Which Broncos receiver are you picking, if any?
So I have interest in all of these guys. And you have to kind of mix and match them, because you look at the numbers, they all run about the same amount of routes. They're all on the field about the same amount of time. There really is nothing in the numbers saying this is the guy that has the opportunity. This is the guy that we need to play. So since that's the case, when I'm looking at opportunity, I'm going to look at salary and I'm going to look at ownership. With Judy being the most expensive and currently projecting to be the highest owned, he's the one that I think I'm going to have to short on the slate. It's not that I don't think he's talented or that he's a great wide receiver. It's just, from a game theory aspect, that's what makes sense to me. So from the wide receivers, I'm looking at Sutton and I'm looking at Patrick, while probably taking a fade stance on Judy.
Yeah, Patrick's the cheapest of the 3, projected to garner the least amount of ownership. So I really like that take. He got the bag recently. He just got paid. Tim Patrick is good, but look at his game log here with my obnoxiously large font, 3 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets, 3 targets, 5 targets, one game went 9, but if you didn't know this was Tim Patrick's game log, you probably wouldn't know which receiver it was that I'm showing you on the screen right now out of 3 of them. You can do what I'm doing today and just say screw it and play Noah Fant. That's what I have the most interest in, Noah Fant. What are your thoughts about him?
Yeah, he's definitely in play too. He's the cheapest of the bunch. a very talented guy. He's basically a wide receiver at the tight end position, kind of in the mold of Kelsey. Like that's more beneficial on a main slate when there's positions. When it's just one position, it's not as beneficial. But he is the cheapest of the bunch. And again, if you look at snap share and things like that, he is right there. Just looking at last week, he actually led the team in routes run. So he's essentially a wide receiver in a tight end position. He's absolutely in play. I don't know that how you pick between any of the four of these guys. Like any of the four could go off. So just I would say choose your two favorites, go overweight on them, take the other two, go underweight on them. You have to take a stance somewhere. You can't just play all four of them at the same amount that the field is, because one of them is going to outperform the rest. So I would just say mix and match them a little bit. The way I handled it was go overweight on two, fade two.
So according to our Gridiron IQ tool, which I'm referencing again, it's like I'm the Gridiron IQ promo guy here, but Denver has been targeting their tight end third most in the league on a percent basis. And unfortunately, a lot of those plays haven't been successful, as they kind of rank bottom 5 in the league in terms of successful targets to tight ends. But the Chiefs are the fourth worst in yielding successful tight end targets. So that kind of sold me a little bit more. Not only is Fant the cheapest and their ownership's kind of the same, right? I mean, we're talking about 5-6%. Obviously, Judy is coming in about 9-10% higher. So just seeing that like the Chiefs corners have been okay. They've been getting gashed against the run since like 2016, so I like Fant. The corners are a little bit better on Kansas City than maybe the public wants to perceive them as. Is Travarius Ward back? That's a big one for me. Has he been? I just need to see that, because that might open some things back. Anyway, I like Noah Fant. That's the bottom line here, and he fits, in a lot of things you want to do. I think he's mispriced, Keith. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument that he should be up there at least with Patrick. So that puts him about 1,200 underpriced. I totally agree with you that his price is very attractive.
Okay, let me get back here on the Kansas City side and Denver. All right, defense and kicker. Any interest here on either side? We want to play these games for the points, but it doesn't always work out like that. Chiefs coming in about 15% projected ownership. Denver is under 10, which I think is very interesting, especially if you're going to use a Javonte Williams captain, and maybe it's not a jam it in night. You could totally flop things here and go Javonte captain in Denver at flex. Not my favorite thing, but we're talking milli builds or something. You just need some contrarian kind of correlations there, and that's one of them. What are your thoughts here? You throwing any defenses in your builds?
I don't have a ton of interest here. You make a great point about if you're playing them, make sure it makes sense with your build. I think your point about the Javonte Williams Broncos in the flex stack, that's a great point. That's exactly how I would play him if I was going to. With the Chiefs defense, I just like so much of the value plays. We talked about both of the running backs, a couple of wide receivers, all of them priced underneath 4.4K, where the Chiefs defense is. I like the upside of the skill players much more. So I don't find myself on Chiefs defense much.
Okay, fair enough. Kickers always become relevant when you least expect it. We have two very good kickers tonight. Just so happens that I'm just not landing on them, because I'm either going all the way to Williams or Mike Boone territory. And I like the odds of Williams outscoring maybe both kickers, like you mentioned. So I'm just gonna probably try to fade the special teams for the most part tonight. I might throw a milli dart in, or whatever they call it, with Denver D, with Javonte a captain, like we just talked about. But other than that, I just haven't been landing on the kickers tonight. But I can't argue you if you're saying I'm playing a kicker in GPPs. Like, yeah, they're GPP winners all the time.
Yeah, it could certainly work out. I just wanted to note, haven't looked at it since this morning, but I know this game had some wind. Looks like Ross report this morning said winds around 15, increasing late, but but the really windy stuff isn't until after the game. So probably not much of a factor, but just anytime you're considering the kicking game, weather's obviously important in an outdoor stadium like Arrowhead. So it's just something to note.
Yeah, good call. And if you're playing Showdown on Monday night, make sure you tune in to whoever's hosting, because Roth has already put out some weather forecasts that it might be ugly between Buffalo and New England. Fittingly enough, this time of the year, Buffalo New England division game going to be ugly. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow. Anyway, okay, favorite captain on each side, I guess. Like give me your favorite optimal captain. Let's do this instead of each side. Give me your favorite optimal captain. 3 max, not 500,000 entries, and then give me your favorite large field captain tonight.
All right, favorite optimal captain, Kansas City. I'm gonna go Mahomes over Tyreek. That's generally not how I play these showdown slates, but just with recent trends in ownership, I think Mahomes comes a little bit lower owned than Kelsey. So I'm playing for Mahomes to throw a couple touchdowns to a few other guys. Give me Mahomes over Hill.
Okay.
On the Denver side, I know like Javonte Williams is probably the most optimal captain, but I think I prefer the passing game here. I don't see much of a path to where Denver can win this game outright. I do like them to keep it close, but I think they're going to throw quite a bit in the fourth quarter trying to catch up to the Chiefs. So I want to take a wide receiver. I'd consider Fant as well. Give me Cortland Sutton on that. Coming back from injury, worked in a little bit last week. Maybe this is the week that Sutton goes off. We saw a couple of ceiling games from him early in the season.
We're projecting Sutton, Judy, Fant, and Patrick all sub 5% at captain. So I like that take. And if you're throwing in 100 lineups, whatever, using lineup HQ, you can easily go overweight in doing so. So I like that call. Good stuff. All right, let's throw like an optimal build out here. And I know you mentioned Mahomes, so let's throw Mahomes in at captain. And we usually gear this little mock build towards, I don't know, something with 500 to 1,500 entries kind of thing, right? Something like that. So nothing too crazy, but if you're playing optimally, but it still works for tournaments, this is what we're looking at. Keith mentioned Mahomes. I can't disagree with him. I also like Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to play spoiler here and throw Tyreek in with this build as well. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you have Mahomes in the MVP, you want at least one of Tyreek or Kelsey in there. I mean, they generally provide the path for Mahomes to hit the big game. So you definitely want one.
And there is some value on this slate. If you go this route, you have just over 51 remaining per slot. Okay. So we got to get someone from Denver in here. And you know what? Let's reference our NFL Slate IQ article. I had it somewhere, but Alan definitely did an excellent job with that as well. I know we're gonna get these questions too. So the builds with the most leverage, Keith. Maybe you have it up before I do. I'm getting there. I'm sorry.
I do have it here. The build that's showing the most leverage is the 4-2 build. So 4 players from the winning team, 2 players from the losing team, appearing in top 0.1% of optimals 46% of the time. So I like the Chiefs to win the game. So I'm looking to build with 4 Chiefs in the majority of my lineup. The interesting thing about that is it looks like the field plays that at just 21%. So that is also the highest leverage build roster construction as well. So 4-2 just makes a ton of sense for me in this spot.
Yeah, and if you look at Alan's article with all of our great data, the 3-3 shows up 38%, 0.1%, but the field plays it more too. So yep. I don't mind the 3-3. I'm landing on some of it, but I'm with you. I am trusting the data here. There aren't a ton of different variables. Sometimes we talk about taking some of the info, the data, the historical stuff with a grain of salt, but I think things are pretty they carry over pretty well historically tonight. So playing the 4-2 makes a lot of sense. Let's stick with that for this build. Are you cool with that?
I am. Yep.
Okay. Well, so we got to throw someone in from Denver. We're going to use 2 Broncos. We talked about some pass catchers and we talked about Javonte Williams. I'm having a hard time getting away from Javonte Williams in any build. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with just going two pass catchers. I think with the Mahomes Tyreek bill, it is very difficult to fit Teddy in there. You really start to get squeezed on cap. So I like the Teddy fade. I'm perfectly fine with Javante. I'd be also fine if it was two pass catchers.
Yeah, I played a handful of lineups and I didn't have any with both quarterbacks. Now, I'm not saying that's the right move. That's just what I was comfortably landing on. I don't really want to like double punt, 3-digit price guys. But yeah, let's not use Teddy if that's okay. Let's go to skill position guys in Denver. Let's use Javante Williams, and then I'll let you pick a pass catcher. By the way, it's about 8:04 Eastern, guys. We'll get to your questions in about 2 minutes. So stick with us. Appreciate it. Okay, yeah, 43 and change per position left here with Mahomes the captain, Tyreek and Javante in the flex here. We can't legally put a whole roster in here, but we can throw two more guys in the flex. What's your next move, Keith? It's on you.
So for the other Denver guy, it's definitely going to be a wide receiver or Noah Fant. Fant is the cheapest, currently showing lowest ownership as well. Well, I guess Patrick is a little bit lower, so I would go Patrick or Fant here. Which one do you prefer out of those two?
I'm okay with either. I'm a fan guy,
Too.
but just for conversation's sake, let's throw Patrick in here. And you can see you have 34 left here, which you're going to be value hunting now for sure. But if you did throw Noah in, let's throw Noah in. Let's just see what the difference is here. You got 4K per position, which you know what? I'm going to switch gears on you. Let's keep Fan in there if that's okay.
Yep, gives us a little more salary to work with. I do think with Mahomes at captain, no doubt about it, we want another Chiefs pass catcher in there. Yeah. We both talked about how Pringle is seeing the most opportunity. Love that 1.8K price tag. I think Pringle makes a ton of sense in this spot.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Oddly enough, we don't have a peon here for him, but maybe it's just my HQ glitching out. But I will refresh it there.
Yeah, I've got 14.3 is what we have projected.
Okay, cool. So just if anybody is watching and not listening, I'll put that in there. Yeah, and you can see 62 left gives you a ton of flexibility. Of course, you're right at that like backup quarterback range. You can play, you can do whatever you want. I mean, if you don't want to go 4-2, you can go 3-3, and one of these other Broncos pass catchers are just kind of staring at us right here, and Tim Patrick. But we kind of bashed Hardman, but he's just not I don't know. People want him to be Deshaun Jackson. He just hasn't been Deshaun Jackson, like prime D-Jax. But you could play him. I mean, that number sticking out with me with Gridiron IQ with the most 20 plus targets in Denver is given up. So, I don't mind that either. I would almost eat some salary. We talked about the RB2 in Kansas City, and I thought that's kind of interesting. Like, is that a direction you'd consider going?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with this build, we're playing for a pass heavy script, but we have our two pass catchers in there. You probably need 3 touchdowns out of Mahomes. And then, I mean, there's nothing saying the Chiefs can't score a fourth if Williams is the guy that does that, or even if Williams catches a couple of screen passes. I definitely think that he fits the build. A couple of different routes he can get there.
Yeah, he's shown to be serviceable catching the ball out of the backfield. So I'm with you as well. I think you can, I don't know what I did with him, but yeah, he's here somewhere. Anyway, man, I really need a coffee. It's been a long day of doing shows. Anyway, yeah, so you have a lot of options there. I'm with this build as well. Let's take some questions. Let's get to it. Let's get to the fun stuff here. And thanks for sticking with us. Definitely check out Alan's premium article. A lot of great info there as well. So our first question is FanDuel GPP large field best strategy or favorite MVP. So you know what? Let's bring up some FanDuel. We'll touch on FanDuel quick since we have a little bit of time, and we could spend some time on FanDuel as well. Typically, correct me if I'm wrong, but go ahead. Like, you're not going to play a quarterback if you're looking for large field leverage, and oftentimes you're going to lose, right? If you're not going to play one of the raw point quarterback guys. So is that typically, when people say, what are your contrarian large field views for MVP? Is that where your mind goes?
Yeah, definitely. Like Mahomes is going to be the clear and obvious choice for the most optimal MVP, but he's carrying a hefty 32% ownership projection in the MVP over here on FanDuel too. So you get quite a bit more leverage by differentiating from that. Tyreek is also up there at 24%. We have him projected. Looks to be the next most popular. So I'll throw Teddy Bridgewater at you. I don't mind him at all. Currently under 10% in the MVP. I think there's multiple routes to the Chiefs getting a big lead and Teddy dropping back a bunch of times in this game. Kelsey's also coming in pretty low owned. So if I had to pick one contrarian MVP, I think it'd be Kelsey over here on FanDuel.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, it's Tyreek over Kelsey every time, but ownership comes into play here, and also not getting that full point per catch. Touchdown equity is a little bit more important on FanDuel. So I kind of agree with you. As much as I'm not on Kelsey on DK, as much I like him on FanDuel. A little hedge action there for you between both sites. But this is kind of a rarity where you have such an ownership discrepancy. You have arguably the best quarterback in the league. I don't know. I'm trying to be nice. Teddy Bridgewater is not a top half of the league quarterback, but he's serviceable. But you're right. If this game's ugly, and someone in the chat said the Chiefs have sputtered, and definitely they have not been themselves the whole year. They've showed some flashes where they blew the doors off of the Raiders, and then against Dallas, it was like, what happened to that team? So I totally understand if it's a kind of a closer, like lower total type game, then I don't mind Bridgewater here either. So I think you pretty much nailed your assessment here. Bridgewater or Kelsey for me for large field MVP FanDuel stuff.
Yeah, just to touch on the scoring, like it's harder for Tyreek to just run away from Kelsey on FanDuel because there's no yardage bonus and you only get a half point per reception instead of the full point. So just to reiterate that.
Okay, good stuff. And I'm glad we got a little FanDuel in there. 8:10 Eastern, guys. We're going to run through these questions. I'll flip this back to DraftKings while I get this question to Keith. And Michael in the chat asked thoughts on backup running back for Denver. And if you're just joining us, we did talk a little bit about Mike Boone, but Keith, can you reiterate any points we covered about Boone?
Yeah, just a lot of uncertainty with how Denver handles this backfield. It's been virtually an even split up to this point between Williams and Gordon. I don't think that there's any way they run Javonte Williams out there for 100% of the snaps. Mike Boone is going to have some sort of a role. The price tag is just $200. He's one of the top value plays on the slate.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see. We want to know which tight end scores all the touchdowns tonight. Well, I'm hoping it's Noah Fant and not the guy's whose name I can't pronounce. Although he played like 40% of the snaps last against who did Denver play? I don't know. He was on the field a lot though. My vote is Noah Fant, and I'm a big fan guy tonight.
Yeah, Albert Okuibunam, I think is how it's said, is definitely in play though. We kind of skipped over him, but I mean he has a role in this offense for sure. And yeah, if you played past showdowns, you know that tight ends and even backup tight ends catch touchdowns on these things. So
it's brutal. That theme has been constant. I mean, if this happens for 18 weeks, can it eventually not be an anomaly? Is it just like a factual thing that every damn showdown slate, the tight end 2 catches at least a touchdown? Man. Okay. Back to basics here. Flex spot. Sutton or Knox. I'm up by 2. Oh, we asking some season long questions here. All right. Man, I'm drawing a blank here. Sutton or Knox? Who's
Dawson Knox?
Oh yeah, Dawson Knox tomorrow. My brain's in tonight.
With the weather in that game, Sutton's matchup against Kansas City, it's got to be Sutton, right? I mean, Knox has been awesome this year, but we're expecting that to be an ugly game, I think, weather-wise.
I was in NBA mode, and I'm like, Kevin Knox? And we just did the NBA. I'm like, God, yeah. That's a tough one. Knox has been the guy, but I think weather concerns me as well. I'd probably roll the dice on Sutton, especially you're probably going to be facing a pretty large deficit with Kelsey being a pretty high floor guy. Fant 19-1 on FanDuel, first touchdown. Don't tempt me with a good time, Shannon. I might have to put that in while we're sitting here. All right. Are y'all getting a lot of Tyreek and Kelsey in the same lineup on DraftKings? What's your take on the jamming in approach tonight, Keith?
I don't even think you can do that. If one of them's a captain, I mean, it doesn't make sense to fade Mahomes in that build, and I don't think you can play all three. I can plug it in here real quick. Kelsey is the cheapest. If we go Kelsey and captain, and then Mahomes and Tyreek, it leaves you with, $3,900 per player. I guess you can do it fairly easy.
Look at Devin hopping in. Devin hopping in saying might try to only have one of those two in my tourney entries. Devin, get in here. I see you typing in the chat. What are your thoughts on Tyreek and Kelsey together?
Well, I find myself wanting to pick only one of the two for my lineups, and I feel myself leaning Kelsey over Hill, which makes me feel cringy, but that's what you kind of need for Showdown, right?
Yeah, and you got that tight end narrative going on too. So
yeah, I mean, you got to go for the tight end narrative. Come on.
As much as we were pro Tyreek in the ceiling, like my level of surprise would be zero if Kelsey had the 2 touchdown game, like we've just seen it.
No doubt.
But I'm playing the ceiling. I'm with you. Thanks, Devin. Appreciate it. Here's another one. FanDuel large GPP from the Big Hurt 28. Would you play both Denver RBs on FanDuel GPP large field? You know what? I haven't played a ton with FanDuel. I'm just guessing you might not need to go there on FanDuel because that's typically how the pricing works out.
Yeah, I was seeing if Boone was priced up at all. He's still, I believe 5,000 is the floor price for flex on FanDuel. So yeah, he is extremely cheap over there as well. I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, finding it hard to think the kickers outscore all the guys below them. I usually love kickers, but not sure tonight. Yeah, I mean, we kind of agree with you. 2 great kickers, though. The thing that worries me is the Chiefs offense has been, sputtering out a little bit for sure. So it's been a while since Bucker was in some winners, or he was even sitting on one of the waiver wires in my season long, which was like a first, right? So I don't know. I think we kind of agree, Keith, right? Kickers, like I'm not knocking you for playing a kicker, but I do like, Darrell Williams or Pringle more, for example.
Yep, I agree. I would even throw Albert O and Mike Boone into that conversation as well. I think there's 4 guys right there that could clearly outscore both kickers.
CHM asked, do you eat salary to get the 4-2 or take another Bronco and go 3-3? I like the 4-2 tonight for large field stuff. We both agreed that's where you're checking a lot of boxes going 4-2. But if you have a 1v1, post it in the chat and maybe we can help you out a little more thoroughly. 8:15 Eastern, guys. Leaving 4K. There's nothing wrong with leaving 4K. We've left a lot more on the table in past showdowns. Keith, you cool at 4K?
I am. It's a little harder on Chiefs showdowns when you have Kelsey and Hill to pay up for. But I think it's totally fine. Like you said, I mean, I've left almost 10K before on showdown slates. Definitely a fan of leaving money to differentiate. I'm totally fine with 4K.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too. I mean, you know what? That gives everyone a little bit of anxiety. Even seasoned DFS players like hit and submit with, a lineup that's not even close to the full allotment of salary. But yeah, let it rip. You're going to have to be unique if you're playing large field stuff. I think that's totally okay. Guy about 8:16 now. Man, is there anything, we're missing here? I guess just in summary here, for me, I like Noah Fant. I like the tight end numbers I looked up. It's hard to pick those Denver pass catchers. But Keith, gun to head, who was your favorite tonight for Denver?
Gun to head, I'm going to throw Cortland Sutton out there. I like Tim Patrick almost as much too. So those are the 2 that I'm overweight on. I like your Fant call a lot. It just seems like Judy didn't find his way into many lineups. I think it's his price tag mainly. I mean, Judy's probably going to go out there and put up 150 and a couple touchdowns now, but that's all right. It happens on Showdown, right?
Yep, absolutely. Javonte Williams captain bills could be interesting, right? While you're still playing a 4-2, like, is there an outcome where you put him a captain, play one more Bronco, then have 4 Chiefs? Like, this game has to be pretty close, right, for that to happen.
Yeah, I don't see the game script unless you think Denver can win outright, where Javonte can put up a captain score for me. I think he's going to be very involved, and I suppose he could score 2 touchdowns. Denver's only 2 touchdowns, and the Chiefs spread it out a lot, and that's how it works out. But I don't know. I just prefer the favorite running back in the captain spot, and I don't want to play CEH. So I don't know. Is there a path that he's an optimal captain in a loss? How does that work out? I guess he catches a bunch of passes.
Some of the stuff I've seen on Showdown this year, I think anything's possible. I will say, if you're playing Javonte, I think you're assuming the Chiefs offense will sputter, once again this week. You want something a little bit uglier probably on the Chiefs end. So should be interesting here. And again, thanks for sticking with us for this long day. Devin, we're about to get out of here in about a minute or two. So got any hot takes tonight for us?
Yeah, you know what? I'll piggyback what I said before. Hot take: Kelsey over Hill.
Right.
Noah Fant gets in the touchdown or gets in the end zone. Need
All the
McManus.
tight ends.
McManus kicker. Denver needed for lineups. Let's do that.
Okay, yeah. And you know what? Like that'll be fairly contrarian tonight because there's some decent value that could outscore those kickers. But I like it, Dev. Dev's hot corner take. We need to get a graphic for your hot takes when I bring you in at the end of the show. Okay, we got one more question here. 819. Thoughts on Captain Tyreek Hill, Bridgewater, Fant. Hold on. All right, lots of names here.
That might be a full lineup, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's a 4-2. Yeah, does that fit? I don't know. I don't have my screen in front of me to plug it in, but anyway, good stuff, fellas. It's been a long day. Guys, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I don't have anything else. Hopefully it's a close game. Hopefully the Chiefs don't run them out. Maybe Denver surprises us and beats the Chiefs at home, but hopefully it's a good game at least.
Good stuff. So for Keith, of course, and Devin, I'm Justin. Another week of football in the books. Good luck tonight, everybody, and have a great week.